forgotten that in the past month or so, over the summer, we've dedicated a brand new fire station in Piper, a brand new grocery store in downtown KCK, an inclusive playground at Wyandotte County Park, and now today we're dedicating this beautiful $27 million building for the juveniles of our community. So, pandemic aside, things are still moving in Wyandotte County and KCK. We're going to have 3 speakers today, and then we will cut the ribbon. I want to first introduce Sheriff Don Ash.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all for being here. This is a really big day for us. This day has been coming really since an initial study was done in 2005 that recommended to the unified government that we really needed to do something besides keep juvenile detainees in that adult jail, which those of you, if you didn't know that, that's what is behind you over there. The juveniles had been in there since, I don't know, about 1990, and we just never moved from there. So in July of 2009, when we reconstituted what was known at that time as the Jail Population Committee, we've since renamed the Criminal Justice Collaborative, we began to look at the excessive cost of housing inmates in the jail and all of that. And I'm going to be real short with this, but you've got to understand a few pieces. One of the things in that original assessment that we identified was that, we had about 40 juveniles in custody back in that day, and if we had that space available, we could have had 52 adults there, or if we double bunked it, we could have had 104 adults there, and we were farming out anywhere between 150 and 250 back in those days to other communities around our region here. So we went to work on that, and then we reached out to our partners with Trainer Architectural Group, and with some help from Carter Goebel Lee, some subject matter experts in terms of programming and so forth, on that analysis and that study. And we refreshed that study that was done in 2005 with that original recommendation, and we refreshed it and we updated it, and really the outcome and the recommendation was the same. We've got to get the juveniles out of there and do something more appropriate with them. And so over those ensuing years, the state of Kansas in particular was looking at ways to reduce the juvenile population in terms of those that needed to be in secure detention. And there was an initiative called Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative that we started working with in the early phases. And then, of course, in 2009, you will recall we were in the midst of a significant economic downturn and beginning to come out of that. And it really wasn't until a few years later, in about 2013, 2014, we refreshed that study again and came up with the recommendation that is what you see has come to fruition in front of you here. So I really need to thank a lot of people, and I don't mean to leave anybody out, but we'll try to hit the main suspects. I mean the main characters and partners in this thing, which certainly were Trainer Architect Carter Goebel Lee in that study and those initial recommendations. Dan Rowe is here from Trainer over here, raising his hand. Dan and I had the same vision for what you see here in front of us. And then working with the consultants, looking at things like trauma-informed care and restorative justice, which we're hearing a lot about those things in our time, in our modern time. We were out in front of all of that with this concept, with this idea. And so the juvenile detention portion of this facility, which is in the lower part of it to the west here, was all designed with that in mind. And even the first floor here and the second floor, which includes community corrections and court service officers that work with our juvenile offenders and their families, and the courtrooms up on the third floor. So the Criminal Justice Collaborative, which included representatives from the Sheriff's Office, the Police Department, the District Attorney's Office, the Unified Government Commission, the County Administrator's Office, our Finance and Accounting Department, and the judges, the courts, the Chief Judge, as well as certainly the juvenile judges. Everybody really grasped a hold of this concept pretty early and was supportive of it. And we had to go through a couple of different iterations on the commission because we had this thing called an election every couple of years, and sometimes the folks change, including the mayor. So we worked with a number of different commissioners and 2 different mayors in order to get to where we are here today. And I definitely want to thank them for all of their support, for catching the vision of this, for seeing what it could be, as well as the county administrator. We worked with a couple of different county administrators, first Mr. Dennis Hayes and mostly Mr. Doug Bach, and his deputy administrators over the years have been a part of this process as we've moved along here. And then I want to thank from other unified government staff, buildings and logistics, particularly John Kelly, Greg Wooten, and their subordinate staff people who have worked very hard in the actual nuts and bolts of moving in here. Laura Landis, our UG architect, has been a big part of that process as well. And then finally, from the Sheriff's Office, I want to thank everybody for their support over the term of this thing, but especially Warden, our jail warden, Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Fuel, who's over here on my right, your left, and our Juvenile Detention Center Administrator, Ms. Terry McKinney, who's there by Jeff, and they have had other staff members, that has been involved in that process. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank Lynn Newkirk and John Novak and Cody Stout and Scott Mead and Steve. I know Steve was here. I saw Steve. Yeah, there he is, Steve. They're the wonderful folks that built this building. And they were a relatively new fledgling company, but they came, and it was clear from their presentation in the RFP process that they too caught the vision of what this really was all about. And so from architectural design all the way through the construction build and everybody else, moving in, it's just been an amazing. John Kelly's staff, Newkirk and Novak staff, to actually help us to be in here and to get in here. And we're not all in here yet. Tomorrow they're going to move the courts in. You're going to hear from Judge York here in a minute. And then as we move along, Phil Lockman and the Community Corrections staff and folks will move in here. And we have been in here with the juveniles now for a little more than a month, sort of worked out a lot of the kinks and everything. So I want to thank you all for coming out here, because as we move forward, particularly in these difficult times and days that we are living in, just remember that we caught the vision long before all of this current civil unrest and everything was going on. We knew we could, and we knew we should, and we knew that we needed to do better for our juveniles. These are our children from our community. And essentially all we were doing over here, by and large, was warehousing them. This facility is designed to restore them. This facility is designed to hopefully break that cycle of them spinning in and out of the criminal justice system. And with programming and community corrections, state of Kansas and others, we hope that we realize that dream sooner rather than later. So thank you once again, and we appreciate you really being here and help us be sure that this vision is realized. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff Ash. And now I would like to introduce a person who deals with these juvenile issues on a day-to-day basis, Judge Delia York.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So there are many things to be grateful for today. It's a beautiful day. We have this grand new facility in which we will be able to serve the young people and their families in a more comprehensive and collaborative way. I do want to send out my thanks to our county and city leaders, Mayor Alvey, the Board of Commissioners, County Administrator's Office. Our leaders have worked hard to provide us with a facility, state-of-the-art facility, so that we can do the hard work that is daily required with our young people. The second thing I'd like to express, of course, is our hope for the future, hope for better outcomes. We hope to provide transitional programming for our young people who do have to spend some time in detention. We hope to be more family-centered in our practices into the future. We hope to be more collaborative with our families. These young people are our future. We keep that in mind every day. So on behalf of the Wyandotte County District Court, Court Services, Community Corrections, all of those of us here that touch families in some way, we are grateful and we have great hope for the future.
Thank you, Judge. And before we actually cut the ribbon, our final speaker is the Honorable Mayor David Alvey.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Thank you all for being here today to celebrate really a milestone in the way we work with some of the young people in our county. So thank you all for joining us here today, and to all those who have been a part of this, the planning, the implementation, the construction process over the years, for those who helped fund this, especially to the taxpayers of Wyandotte County. Thank you for your vision, for your perseverance, your passion to making the new Wyandotte County Juvenile Services Center a reality for our community's young persons. Sheriff Ash, a special thanks to you for your vision, your consistent leadership in bringing this to completion. Thanks also to Judge York for the work that she does day in and day out in working through some very difficult family situations, very difficult situations for many of our young people, all who have shared in this vision and commitment to our community. So we celebrate today a tremendous new community asset. It's a secure, state-of-the-art facility to be used for juvenile detention, administration, programming, and rehabilitation. It offers space for up to 40 youths at a time. A special thanks to Trainer HL, the architect, and to Newkirk Novak Construction for this beautiful facility. The new center has been designed with the needs of young persons and juveniles in mind. It is more conducive for learning, for programming for kids and their parents, for access to court services and transportation, for trauma-informed care. With this new facility, juveniles in Wyandotte County will no longer be housed in the same facility as adults. And that's happened in the past because evidence-based research shows that you must work with young people differently than we work with adults. What works for rehabilitating adults is not the same as what may work for young people. So keeping those groups separate is a preferred environment especially for our juvenile offenders. So we can and we have done better for our juveniles and their families with the new Juvenile Services Center, with all the unique features that it includes. The underlying intent of everything we are doing is to help young persons get and stay on a path of rehabilitation, of education, of bringing more family-centered care rather than institutionalized care. We want to prevent and help young people stay out of the system. It was a privilege and an honor for me when I lived in California to work in the San Leandro County Juvenile Detention Center. And on Sundays, I would go, we would host a prayer service for the youths, and then if they signed up, we could go and visit them in their units. And the stories that I heard still stick with me today. I'll tell the story of a young man named Jesus, who at 17, he was 2 months away from hitting his 18th birthday, and he was neglected by his mother and father. His father was out of the picture. His mother was addicted to drugs, not truly able to care for him. She was so absorbed in her own needs, in her own dysfunction. And so he found people on the street who supported him, gang members who supported him, who gave him some sense of belonging, some sense of stature, and he was attracted to them. He also found a young man, a classmate, whose mother brought him in, who was not part of the gang. And he went from one group to the other, from the family to that group of gang members. And whenever he would go to his friend's house, the mother would invite him in, and the first thing out of her mouth was, "Are you hungry? Can I fix you something to eat?" And of course, being 16, 17 years old, he was always hungry. And so she was always fixing him something to eat. But he was also drawn to the gang because it gave him a place of standing, a place of stature. And he told the story that he got a gun and he wanted to show off to his friends in the gang. So he goes and sees them on the streets and he pulls the gun out and shows them. And they're very impressed because it's a power for him. And he left them with the gun and he went to his friend's house. And the mother again greeted him at the door and said, "Oh, he's in the bedroom. Can I fix you something to eat?" And of course he said, "Well, yes, thank you." And so he went into the bedroom and he wanted to show off. And he pulled the gun out and handed it to his friend, and the gun went off and killed the man in his own bed. The mother heard the shot, came and found her son dying on his bed. And at this point, when he's telling the story, this young, beautiful 17-year-old man is weeping. And he said, "If I could take the bullet myself, I would do it now. If I could turn back the clock, I would do it now, but I can't." He said, "In a couple of months, I will be tried as an adult. I will be going into the state penitentiary." And he said, "The mother has forgiven me." These are some of the individuals who come into our system every day. These are not people we need to control and to punish as much as to treat with care and love, to ask them, "Are you hungry? Can I fix you something to eat? Can I be your friend? Can I be your support?" This is what this facility enables us to do. So remember, at the center of all this is the human person. We must keep that in mind and never see them as just juvenile offenders, as criminals. They are persons created and loved by God, and calls upon each one of us to do the same, to recreate and to love, to bring that vision of the dignity of each human person into full flower. That is the desire behind this building. And I ask each of those who are working with these juveniles to keep that in mind. They are human persons who are loved and have dignity. So I am honored to be a part of this significant milestone. So many people have done so much. Thank you, all of you, for doing something for each person. So we're going to have our groundbreaking. If you would like to take a tour of the facility afterwards, that will be available. We also have some cookies, individually wrapped, COVID-free, and waters. Well, I'd ask that you would enjoy those as well. Thank you all for coming here today.
You know, I left one incredibly important piece out here. Obviously, a lot of this got amped up and ramped up a little over 2 years ago when our 2 deputies were murdered during the course of a transport over to this court building over here. That's what that red building over there is a hardened sally port. So deputies Teresa King and Patrick Rohr were the victims in that situation. Patrick's widow, Sarah, joins us today along with her mother, Mrs. Carr, as well as Patrick's parents, John and Marcia Rohr, as well. Will you all raise your hands just so we can recognize that? This building and that Sally Port are dedicated today in the honor and memory of Teresa and Patrick. And so I thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Okay, now we get to the ceremonial part that we always have to do, and that is the official ribbon cutting. So what I would like to do is have Sheriff Ash, Mayor Alvey, and Judge York come up on the front row, and then the rest of the UG Commission, as we did at the fire station, kind of stagger behind on the second and third row. And I would also like to invite the trainer architects and the Novak construction people to come up and stand as well. It'll make it hard for our photographers, but I think we can spread you all out enough that you can all be in the picture and all take part in the ribbon cutting. All right, thank you all very much.